Hello, how are you? My name is Teresa Micheletti, and this site is called Take What Rings True. Let me check my volume. Okay. Today, I want to talk about past lives. No, I never believed in past lives. Even after seeing demonstrations of a hypnotist having people go to past lives, I didn't believe in them. So I took a class, a hypnosis class, to become certified to become a hypnotist. And after a few weeks, we were assigned to do a past life regression. It's like, okay, fine. So, who do I trust? Okay, I decided I trusted my mom not to be making stuff up. So, I did a past life regression on my mom. So, I guided her. You're not supposed to lead, you're supposed to guide people and not put ideas into their head like, when did you see the spaceship? Where did you see the, whatever. Anyway, you're supposed to guide them and ask open-ended questions. Who, what, where, when, why, how, whatever. Anyway, so it started, the first place my mom went to was in Charlotte. And I said, oh, North Carolina? No, not North Carolina. It's like, okay, this is not my mom. She doesn't act like this. She was reading to some children. I said, oh, are they your children? No, they're not my children. I'm not even married. So they were her nieces and nephews. So her attitude was totally different than my mom. She was able to validate. So what you do is, if you're trained in past life regression or regression, you ask for specific details like, what is the city you're in? What's your last name? How old are you? What's your husband's name? Your children's names? All that stuff. What's your career? Or, what do you do in life? What's your role in life? Okay. So she was able to validate those things. Her name, the city. I forget what state it was, but it's not North Carolina. It was Charlotte, someplace else. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the next life she went to, we both knew, she loved the kings and queens in England. She was always reading books about past history and kings and queens, voila. Okay, so I said, can you go to the time of kings and queens in England? So she went to a time and she's standing on a hill and she's looking down and people are getting ready to do like a picnic or something like that. And some kids were setting up for a maypole, where you have a pole and ribbons and you weave them in and out. And I asked her what the function was, what the idea was. Well, her husband had just died. And he was, I forget what it was, like a count or a duke or something like that. And somebody from the royal house was going to come to this event. It was like a memorial. And she didn't want to go down from the hill. Because in past life regression, you often have people become the observer first, so they don't have to relive yucky stuff that happened in their life. They can tell about it, observe it, but they don't have to be in the moment. So anyway, she described what had happened, and she was able to validate that. The name of the person that she was married to, the year, etc. Okay. So then she went to a life in China. And she was in her daughter's room. And I asked her if she could move because she's describing they're wearing silks. Even the walls are yellow silk. She and her daughter are playing with jewels. And the beads, my mom's going, the jade is this big. The beads are this big. So it was like giant. So I knew she was wealthy. And I figured her feet were bound. So I tried to get her to say that. So I said, can you go into the next room? No. Okay. you don't want to move from the space you're in. No. And I couldn't get her to say she was, had her feet bound, whatever. Anyway, she got the name of her grandfather. She was living with her grandfather. Her dad was not alive, her grandfather. And she was living next to a river, and she got the name of the family, and she got the year, and she got, I forget, whatever else. Anyway, when she looked it up, only royalty was allowed to have yellow silk. She was part of a dynasty, and that dynasty only lasted 60 years. So she was able to validate that past life. Well, I didn't know anything about that dynasty. I don't think she knew anything about it. I didn't believe my mom was making stuff up because her attitude had changed so much. I couldn't believe it. So, past lives. So now I believe in past lives. And the interesting thing about being a hypnotist and guiding people to past lives is you learn so much. I was talking about this the other day. There's the question, did Shakespeare write everything that says William Shakespeare? Well, according to one of my clients who was at a pub with William Shakespeare, and they were talking about writing, William Shakespeare just said to her, and she was a male in that life, but said to my client, you can just use my name. So I believe that William Shakespeare allowed other people to write under his name. Also, I think the second hypnosis session, past life regression, I ever did, I was doing it with a friend, and she went into a past life, and she was going over a bridge and going to her house, and she was wearing sandals, and it was dusty. And she spent half the time saying, it's so dusty. I hate all this dust. Well, if you are going to make up a session, why would you spend half of it saying how dusty everything is? Anyway, she was going to go to a storeroom, and they had big earthen jars, and she had scrolls in there. Well, she was a scribe. And then she went across the bridge again, was by a big tree, and there was a road across the bridge, and people were coming, and they were bringing food, like picnic baskets or, containers. What do you call those things? Like you get a dish towel and you tie it up and you have food inside. Anyway, so they were bringing bread. They were bringing different kinds of fruit. They were bringing whatever they had. So it was like a potluck. Well, later on, she's talking to Jesus, and he's going to be talking by the water. I think it's by the water, the mountain by the water. It doesn't matter. Anyway, it was the story of the loaves and the fishes. So I knew that story, but I couldn't say, I know that story. But it was described from a different point of view. Like it was a potluck. People were coming to hear Jesus, and they were bringing food, and they were going to share it. Makes sense. But it's the part of history you don't hear. It's the part of history you don't get a clue of. And I believe this person, I believe she was not making it up, especially since every other sentence was, it's so dusty. I hate the dust. I don't like dusty sandals. So anyway, dust. And you can learn things. Another time, I was doing past life regression. I was traveling across North America because my friend Sylvia Brown would have people sign up to do past life regressions, and then I'd go to that city, or there were a few of us who would go to different cities. So I was in some city in the South, and my client was a pharaoh in a past life. And this pharaoh could not figure out how to feed the people and how to take care of them because there had been a famine. People had had great difficulty, and he didn't know what to do about it. So my next client, unknowing the first client, my next client was a pharaoh. And this pharaoh said, He didn't understand why his dad didn't take care of the people because there had been famines, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I can't tell these people. I mean, it's not ethical for me to like say, hey, I just met your dad from a past life. So anyway, but I think it was an interesting thing for me to do that. And I think sometimes the universe, source, or whatever, God, creates these instances where you can learn more by having things like this happen, a pharaoh and then a pharaoh. And the first pharaoh didn't know what to do. The second pharaoh didn't understand why the dad didn't do things. And he set up storerooms or store facilities. I don't know, if it was a pyramid, I don't remember. Anyway, some kind of container to hold uh, things for people to eat when there was no food. So he also did a different form of government and had people better able to um, communicate and get things done and voice their difficulties and be able to handle them so that the hierarchy, the government, could help these people. Anyway, it's fascinating. The main reason people come to me for past lives is because they have unexplained pains and the doctors can't find a reason for them. And then we find out, okay, the reason your shoulder hurt is because in a past life, a limb fell on your shoulder and injured it. And when we come back into life, cells have memory and they're taking that memory back of, oh, you have a hurt shoulder. Well, if you can talk to your client and explain, been there, done that, let go of that memory, you don't have to keep it anymore, then the pain can go away. Even if it's in this life. One lady, 80 something, I think she was 80 something, from Atlanta, had frostbite in her 20s and her feet had hurt ever since. So we just said, that's been there, done that. You don't need to keep that anymore. You've experienced that. You don't need to keep any pain or discomfort from that. So the pain went away. So she sent me, I think it was like six of her family members next time I came to town to have regressions, which was very nice of her. And then I've had the opposite where a client comes and they've had frostbite and they can't feel that area of their body anymore. And we can gather up that energy, those thoughts that keep streaming back to your brain and your nervous system and say, you don't need to do that anymore. You can heal yourself. You can bring back those cells that are remembering feeling. And so he got feeling again. So one person got rid of the bad feeling of her feet being frostbitten, and this other guy got feeling back. So good things. Phobias. Another reason people come, the main reason people come is phobias. You live next to the ocean and you're afraid of the water. You want to go on a sail around the world and you're afraid of the water. You are afraid of spiders. You are afraid of whatever it is. And we go to the origin point of why this fear happened. And you find out, well, your husband died in a past life. He went off to the world to explore in a ship and never came back. You were a 2-year-old and you almost drowned. You were a slave and you fell off the ship and you drowned. And so now you wonder, you're afraid of water. So we take those ideas that are in your head of knowledge of stuff that happened, and it doesn't matter to me. It does not matter if it's a real past life or it's a metaphor. If your brain's making this stuff up and it's in order for you to get help to release some ideas, then that's fine. I believe past lives are real because people can validate them. They can go to the internet and find out say you were a pioneer and you collected furs and you lived in Kentucky and you married somebody from Tennessee and you know their name and you know the date and you can validate that. So you can go into the internet and find out, okay, this family history, this person's last name, this person was alive in 1862 and their wife's name was da-da and their child's name was da-da and they were a scout for the army, whatever it is. You can look it up and validate, yes, that is a reality or that is what's written down in history. So I believe in past lives now. So phobias, say you're afraid of spiders. I had one person who was afraid of spiders and they'd fallen into this, you know how in mines, especially in the movies, they have rickety closings of wood on top of the opening. And in this case, this person fell in and everything was spiders. There were spiders all around and spiders crawling on him. Well, no wonder he doesn't like spiders. So we did the been there, done that. Don't need to hold on to that. You have the knowledge of it. You don't have to keep the emotion of it. So phobias. It's kind of nice to get rid of the phobia or people who are afraid of airplanes or flying or speaking in public or whatever it is. You can try getting it addressed by having a regression. Now, it may be something in this life, it may be something in a past life. So we don't determine that. We just say, go to the point where it started. And the person goes to the point where it started. It can be in this life, it could be in a past life. And if it's a metaphor, fine, let it be a metaphor. I have a friend who calls it the multiverse. Okay, in the multiverse, tell me what happened. And to me, it doesn't matter. If a person gets relief and makes their life easier, better, then who cares if it is real or not real? I don't care if there really aren't past lives. If it helps my client to have an easier life and to feel better, then that's what counts. That's my opinion. So, past lives are quite interesting. Some people protect themselves or protect their family or overprotect them because of things that have happened in the past, in their own life or in past lives. And you can find out why you're doing that. I know I've had clients who wanted to find out why are they so protective of their child? They won't let them out of their sight and they're like 13 and they want to be able to let go a little bit and find out why are they so overprotective? And maybe this child was their child in a past life and they died in a fire and they don't want them to die in a fire this time because they have this feeling of protection, I need to protect. And so they overprotect. So if you're interested in exploring past lives, then you can contact me. You can go to my website, tmicheletti.com. You can go to bookme.name/Theresa M, THERESA M, and you can sign up to do a past life regression. Or just contact me at heavenlyhypnotist at gmail.com. So think about your life. Are you totally into Danish furniture and nobody else in your family is? Are you totally into Chinese things? Are you all things from Kenya? Are you interested? For me, it was Stonehenge. I collected all the Stonehenge books. I looked at Stonehenge things. I wanted to go to Stonehenge. Well, I had a life in Stonehenge. And I'm also all things King Arthur. All the different variations of King Arthur, Camelot, Merlin. I was always into that. Well, according to my friend Sylvia Brown, when she did a reading for me, she said I was Guinevere's sister. Only if you look up any stories that talk about Guinevere's sister, she's usually not a nice person. But I'm sure I was wonderful. Sometimes I'm said to be a twin to Guinevere, sometimes just a sister, sometimes I'm not mentioned at all. And I haven't really explored all the ins and outs of that life, but I believe that because I was so interested in it. You know, all the people who collect all things Civil War. Well, you probably had a life at that time. I have a friend who's all things Abraham Lincoln. Well, they had a life at that time. In fact, in that life that we explored, she went to a location outside the White House, a little bit away from the White House that was a little cooler because no air conditioning in those days, with a gigantic tree in front. And they were getting ready for a party. And then later on PBS, I was watching a program and it shows Lincoln riding his horse and going to this location slightly away from the White House with a gigantic tree in front and showed this like ballroom area or whatever meeting area people could have parties and stuff. And I'm calling her going, I found the location. So that was validation. So you never know. So if you want to explore things, let me know. If you just want to think about it, that's good too. And if you don't want to believe it at all, that's all right. I just have found that it is easy to figure out what's going on for unexplained pains or phobias by using past life regression. You can also get rid of some of your beliefs that you're holding on to. I had this belief that I was expecting people not to stab me in the back, but to not follow through with things. And that came from past lives where people would not follow through. Also, the feeling that I needed to beware because people were going to not give me credit for what I knew or my talents or my abilities, which has happened in this life. But part of it is the expectation. So you expect it, it comes to you. But it happened from recurring things in past lives, in my belief. So think about it. Maybe you have past life stuff that you are connecting to. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe you want to let it go. So you can always tell yourself if you have an unexplained fear, just say, okay, if this is a past life issue, help me let it go. You don't have to go to a hypnotist, go to a meditation and tell your spirit guide, hey, I need help with this. I want to let this feeling go. And they can help you with that. So thank you for joining me today. And I'll see you next week with another spiritual thoughts topic. Thanks. Bye.